Hello and welcome to the Squared Circle Psychobabble. My name is Michael Valenti. This is Ralph Valenti. Tonight we are talking about Kenny Omega. Is he going to All Elite Wrestling or is he staying in New Japan Pro Wrestling? A little bit of a developing story here since how Being the Elite ended this week on their YouTube channel. But before we get to the discussion, make sure you hit subscribe and hit that bell for notification as we're trying to get to 5,000 YouTube subscribers before All Elite Wrestling Double or Nothing. Now, this is the last Being the Elite episode before the ticket sale announcement that's happening Thursday night. And an interesting conversation happened in one of the scenes of Being the Elite this week. We have Kenny Omega calling Nick Jackson of the Young Bucks, just asking what he should do. The biggest decision of his life. He's never been in a situation like that. And Nick Jackson is alluding to him deciding, should he go to All Elite Wrestling? Should he go to WWE, New Japan? But it actually was more of a Kenny Omega deciding which storyline to pursue in the new Resident Evil 2 remake.
Right.
Now, this could be correlating to his actual real-life situation in wrestling. So, Ralph, do you think they were hinting that Kenny Omega is either A, swerving us all, B, actually going to New Japan and staying in New Japan, or C, doing a mix of both, or D, is just going to All Elite Wrestling exclusively?
Yeah. Well, like you said, there was a lot of undertows and kind of suggestions within the most recent episode. It's hard to tell exactly what he's going to do based on what was said. My gut instinct is that he's still going to go to All Elite Wrestling. I think that we might get that reveal at the ticket sale show on Thursday. If not then not too shortly after. They kind of touched on, and this is what they've done for about a year and a half now, right? They know how to stay relevant, whether, it's Kenny Omega or something that goes on outside of All Elite Wrestling, like them showing up at local indie shows. They're always finding a way to remain relevant and have us talking about them. So something as subtle as a little segment, including Kenny Omega at the end, kind of teasing where he's going to go, what he's going to do. It's a topic that we're discussing right now, so they always find a way to remain right at the top of the discussion.
Yeah, of course, that is definitely true, but this whole thing with Kenny Omega is very interesting in that it seems like everyone is assuming he is definitely going to All Elite Wrestling, but I have been saying this since the prediction show that we did at the end of 2018 that I think he's going to stay in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and this episode of Being the Elite kind of solidified that for me. Now, I understand he could be swerving us. He could be throwing everybody off. But there's a lot of things that have been happening where people are saying, oh my God, that's definitely saying he's going to All Elite Wrestling. But at the same time, I'm saying the opposite. We talk about how at the Tokyo Sports Press Conference, he said that he's going to a large wrestling company that is expanding globally. Now everyone's assuming All Elite Wrestling. New Japan Pro Wrestling's doing that same exact thing.
Definitely.
On that same day, he tweets out something along the lines of, until next time, Japan. That doesn't mean he's leaving Japan. That just means he will be back in Japan at some time. But people are saying, oh, he's leaving Japan until next time and is going to All Elite Wrestling. I say it's the opposite. This episode here, saying he's going to separate from the pack and stay away from the losers and he's going to do his own thing. Now, this, to me, solidifies that he is, in fact, doing New Japan Pro Wrestling. Now, I don't know if this means he's doing kind of what, I think he's doing more of what Jericho's doing. And that he will be with All Elite Wrestling. I have no argument against that he's going to All Elite Wrestling. What I'm saying is he's going to still be a part of New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Okay.
And I am still under the belief that he's going to be on that G1 Supercard at Madison Square Garden. And I think it's a rematch against Tanahashi.
Yeah, I mean, after watching this, listening to what he had to say, I mean, I feel a little more comfortable saying that he could do both. I think that whatever ends up happening, his primary contract is going to be with All Elite Wrestling, and then he could be allowed to do some stuff outside of All Elite Wrestling. In very limited amounts. I think they'll let him go do some shows at a smaller capacity with New Japan Pro Wrestling because we know he does have a really good relationship with them. They made him a star. He brought a ton of money to the company as well. He's had some great feuds there. My argument against that has always been, well, what does he really have left to achieve there? And we've kind of talked about, the feud that he promised everybody between him and Ibushi. That doesn't necessarily have to happen in New Japan. It could happen in All Elite Wrestling. Me personally, I would like to see him in some type of feud with Jay White at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I mean, he's really kind of done everything there is to do there. But that being said, I can see him going to All Elite Wrestling. I think that's where his primary contract's going to be. If he does some shows outside of that with New Japan Pro Wrestling at some point, I wouldn't be surprised. And I really don't see WWE as being even one of the choices that's
no.
in the race
I think
anymore.
that I think that ship has definitely sailed. I think once he was not at the Royal Rumble, even though there was no way that was definitely happening, people were still saying he's going to be at the Rumble. He's going to be at the Rumble. He's going to be at the Rumble, even though he wasn't. He couldn't under contract with New Japan. I knew WWE was never going to happen.
Well, this is part of the problem we talk about every year, especially when WrestleMania season comes up. You get the Royal Rumble. You get a lot of people who get their hopes up for things that, were never going to happen in the first place.
Right.
How many years in a row have we heard Shawn Michaels was going to come back for one more match at WrestleMania, or we were going to get Sting and The Undertaker, or this year we were going to get Kenny Omega, and it's like people are setting themselves up to be disappointed. So you got to have realistic expectations. Could Kenny Omega at some point end up in the WWE? Of course he can still. But I think right now, based on everything that's going on, that All Elite has the momentum, I don't see him going to WWE.
Now, the other thing, too, is when you look at this conversation that Omega and Nick Jackson have in this episode of Being the Elite, Kenny asks Nick Jackson, could he start with one and then go to the other? Obviously saying, could he either stay in New Japan and then later go to AEW, or go to WWE and go to AEW after his contract's done with WWE. Now, he's 35 years old, so, that I would say that's about in his prime, 3 to 5 years left in his prime. So the next contract he has to be A, his most lucrative, and B, probably is going to take him to the end of his quote-unquote prime.
Well, first of all, for him to remain in his prime and for him to get that contract, he's got to remain healthy. I mean,
that's true.
There's no secret that his matches are extremely physical and extremely demanding on his body. And now, does that catch up to him at some point? It has to at some point. When that's going to be, I don't know.
Now, to put that into his perspective as well is during his reign as IWGP Heavyweight Champion, he was wrestling hurt with, I believe it was a rib injury. If anybody can clarify that for me in the comments, please do so if I'm wrong. But going back to my original point here, his next contract, I think, would be 3 to 5 years. If he goes to WWE, he would not want to be there for 3 to 5 years because, to me, I think he only wants one match, knowing that the Bucks are not going to be in WWE. And that one match is with AJ Styles. Now, there's some news that swirled Wednesday afternoon that WrestleVotes is tweeting that AEW has offered a contract that is too good to turn down with someone big in WWE. Obviously, the speculations have been running wild as to who this could be. Is this contract tampering? Is it not? There's no source, so what's the legitimacy of it? But could this be that All Elite Wrestling is offering AJ Styles the contract that's too good to turn down? He's going there to set up AJ Styles versus Kenny Omega.
It wouldn't matter what match AJ Styles was going to have. I mean, the amount of credibility that he'd bring over to All Elite Wrestling is, without question.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be like, if they were able to get Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, and AJ Styles, I know they're saying, and they've said all along, we don't want to compete with WWE, we want to be an alternative. If you have those guys on top of the Young Bucks, on top of Cody Rhodes, on top of all the other guys they have, Neville at some sort of capacity, Hangman, you're going to be able to, at some point, at some level, if you continue to grow, compete with WWE. I mean, it's just, to me, it seems like it's inevitable, especially considering the rumored TV deal that's supposed to be huge. You sign those guys, assuming it is AJ Styles, you're right in the position to compete with them. And when you say big, I think you almost have to assume it's got to be somebody big like an AJ,
a Lesnar.
Yes, to me that's big. That's like a larger than life signing. Would a Dean Ambrose be big? It would be cool, but at this point, it's almost kind of like assumed he's going to go there. So
same with Ziggler.
To me, Ziggler is very accomplished within the WWE, but he even kind of alluded to this. Ziggler never took the time away from WWE for the fans to miss him. That's because he was never hurt and he always wanted to work. And that actually worked against him. I've always been a big fan of, it always sucks when guys get hurt, but if guys deliberately go away for a little bit and you bring them back, it gives the fans a chance to miss them. And when the fans have a chance to miss them, once they come back, it's like kind of like a fresh start. You're going to see that with Kevin Owens. I guarantee he'll get a huge reaction when he comes back. Sami Zayn, all those guys, it's almost like a hard reset for them, seeing that they've been away. Ziggler, he's always been there. He's never really gone away for longer than maybe a few months here or there. And him going there, to me, it would be cool. I'd want him to go there, but it's not big to me. It's just like, oh, I figured that much.
Right.
But Lesnar, if they had a TV show and Lesnar walked out, or AJ Styles, that's like game changing. That's like, we're here to stay. We're going to compete with you. We're here to get the very best talent in the world. Not that Lesnar's the best talent, but he's good at what he does. So there's not many guys that can go in there and do what Brock Lesnar does.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I was looking at the comments in our last video that we did about Brock Lesnar.
Probably split.
It was very split. I was actually surprised how split it was. I thought it would be very anti-Brock signing with AEW in the comment section in that video. And those that haven't seen it, check it out. We'll have the link in the description, and I put the eye above my head if you're watching this on YouTube. I found it very surprising how so many people actually wouldn't mind Brock Lesnar signing with All Elite Wrestling, but it would have to be on a full-time basis, and I just don't see that.
That's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen.
It wouldn't have to be. Definitely wouldn't have to be. But limited appearances, limited matches, even if it was a couple.
Right. So going back to Kenny Omega here, Omega, you're saying that there's nothing left for him in New Japan Pro Wrestling. You bring up possibly Jay White. I know they had a match where Jay White took the United States Championship from Kenny Omega, but of course, former leader of the Bullet Club, current leader of the Bullet Club, can use that as a storyline.
And Jay White right now seems like he's going to be the next guy to get the push.
Right.
So, Jay White was on his way up when Kenny Omega was also, probably a couple steps ahead of him. Seeing that they're both kind of more established guys right now, it'd be a higher profile match. So I know they've already wrestled before, but more is at stake now.
Now, Jay White is facing Tanahashi this month.
Yep.
In the New Beginning at Osaka. That's February 11th. So, if somehow, and I know the IWGP Heavyweight title does not change hands as frequently as titles in WWE, but do you see possibly Jay White versus Kenny Omega at either the G1 Supercard in Madison Square Garden or Dominion this coming summer? Now, Dominion is after Double or Nothing.
Yeah. I don't think so. I do. So one of the things I was going to say, I actually do think Kenny Omega will wrestle at the show at Madison Square Garden, but I think we're going to get the rematch between him and Tanahashi. And then after that point, I think that we'll get the announcement. I don't know if we're going to get the Kenny Omega announcement on Thursday, but
we did get the countdown.
That's true.
We did get the countdown. Now, this whole thing with Kenny Omega's phone, he lost his phone. Now he said he found his phone, but he wasn't using that particular phone when talking to Nick Jackson.
Exactly.
So that's the other thing. Like, maybe I'm over analyzing here, but maybe it's making you think it's Kenny Omega's phone, but it's not at the end, and it's counting down to somebody else. I don't know. I really don't know what to make of it. It's a great. This is a storyline. This is a storytelling that WWE has been lacking for a long time, and The Young Bucks and Cody and Kenny are doing a great job on just a freaking YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. Imagine what they can do on a weekly episodic wrestling show.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, only time will tell with this TV deal. And quickly, last point here on this episode. Let's talk about the TV deal quick. They were in Atlanta this weekend for the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And a lot of people are speculating because Meltzer reported that there are 2 offers on the table. We kind of knew that since Jericho mentioned it on Busted Open Radio after the rally a couple months back. Do we see Turner Sports and All Elite Wrestling coming together? And we see All Elite Wrestling either on TBS or TNT?
I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to say that because I think, everything, all the speculation and all the rumors and everything else, all the information that's come out to this point has kind of shown that that's where they'll likely land. I just can't think of another logical place where they could land besides that.
The only one I can think of possibly would be if it's possible, maybe Viacom is in the deal and they put it on Paramount Network, but I don't think that's big enough. I know Paramount used to have the WWE, so that might be the thing. Also, maybe ABC is involved in Disney somehow and putting it on
I don't
ESPN.
know if that'll work. I don't think so either. I think it's going to be TBS, and from what Meltzer had reported, I think he said it was going to be the biggest deal for any wrestling TV show contract since WCW. So
that's huge.
That's significant. It's going to be big. I think we're going to find out that information. I think we'll find that out Thursday.
Yeah, because
we'll find out more. I think we're going to find out a little more than just, information about Double or Nothing.
Right. Now, they did mention in the press release for Double or Nothing that there will be new signees announced. We'll probably see the official signing or close to signing of Pentagon Jr. and Rey Fenix. Yep. I know they're still under contract with Lucha Underground, so basically they can only sign with All Elite Wrestling on a per-match basis. That's, I guess, the workaround with that. People have been asking about that. That's the workaround that I've seen all over the news outlets. So we might see some women, as Brandy Rhodes teased. Bea Priestley was rumored to be signing with All Elite Wrestling, so you might see her there. Partnerships. Is that the TV deal? Is that wrestling promotions? I know we've seen Bar Wrestling, we've seen Defy Wrestling, and Northeast Wrestling, all part of being the Elite in the last 2 weeks with their invasions. Dragon Gate, Hell or High Water, and Atlanta was their last one where they did the handshake with Pentagon and Phoenix. So maybe that's the partnerships. And of course, the special guest, which many people are speculating is in fact Kenny Omega. Yeah. So it's going to be a fun couple of days until we see this live stream for All Elite Wrestling happening at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. We'll be watching it live, and then we'll have our episode Friday with our reactions to that. So that's going to do it here for this episode of the Squared Circle Psychobabble. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell for notifications. 5,000 YouTube subscribers before All Elite Wrestling, Double or Nothing. Last time I checked before the recording, we were about 2,300 subscribers. Yeah. So getting closer and closer to that halfway
point.
The
halfway mark.
And we're not even out of February yet. We're just getting into February. So thank you very much for subscribing. If you like any of the points that we made here, make sure you like and share on your social media outlet. And follow us on Twitter at SCPB Podcast. For Ralph Valenti, my name is Michael Valenti, and thank you for listening to the Squared Circle Psychobabble.
That was easy.
Very easy.